Oh, hi. Sorry. Still just trying to decipher all of the conditions on that first rounder that Montreal got last week. Why don't we try to break it down coming up on the show? Hey there, Habs fans. Welcome back to another episode of Habs Hockey Report right here on the All Habs Hockey Magazine YouTube channel. We are part of Rocket Sports Media, of course, and I am your host each and every Thursday here on the show. My name is Amy Johnson. I also happen to be the lead correspondent over at our sister site dedicated to Habs prospects, which is ahlreport.com, giving you credentialed coverage of the Laval Rocket every season and all season long. So glad you're with us here today. We've got a great show lined up for you. You know, it's been like a Thursday theme here all summer long. Big news seems to break for the Canadiens on Thursdays, and that's the day the show comes out. So last week's show had already been shot, edited, and was already uploaded to YouTube by the time all of that news broke. Instead of trying to scramble in the last second and add it into last week's show, we needed some time to digest everything and really, get to hear all of the press conferences and so forth so that we could bring you good information and kind of let it all sink in and settle in a little bit. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the Habs news. We're going to talk about the trade and the news that Kent Hughes brought us about Carey Price's condition. If you are new to the show or you just have been watching maybe for a few weeks and haven't just yet hit that subscribe button, why don't you just do that right now? Takes just a minute. Tap subscribe, tap the notification bell. We are getting geared up. We are going to start having some pretty intense coverage here once rookie camp starts and the prospect tournament starts, and we don't want you to miss a single week. We're glad to have you along, and let's get started. Well, what a whirlwind week it has been for Habs fans trying to digest all of the news that came out last week. Before we get to that, let's just cover a couple of other bases of just some general news surrounding the Habs. It really is, we're in the third week of August. Guys are definitely starting to ramp up their training and get in preparation to report back to Montreal, get settled in, and get ready to focus on training camp. We've seen this week Yoel Armia on the ice skating in his home country, skating and training with Puri, who put out a little video of him skating with them and training with them in practice this week, because of course the European leagues get things started a little earlier than they do here in North America. So Yoel Armia, well on his way, starting to focus on getting into game shape. A bunch of the young guys are also already in Montreal and have started skating at Brassard. So of course, while they're in town, why not take in part of the fun that can be found in the city of Montreal? And the soccer team from Montreal, CF Montreal, was very happy and pleased to host 4 Habs young guns during the week this week. And you see there, we've got Juraj Slafkovsky, we've got Caden Gooley, Arbor Jacki, and Philip Mejar, all attending a CF Montreal game, looking like they had a great time. But the 4 of them obviously doing some bonding off ice, which I think is great. That could be quite a fun group on and off the ice, and they are obviously getting settled in and starting to set their sights on rookie camp, which is coming up just in a few weeks. However, Juraj Slafkovsky is going to have an event to do before even the rookie camp takes place. News came out this week that Juraj Slafkovsky, of course, will be part of this year's NHLPA Rookie Showcase. This year's showcase will feature the top prospects from 2020 2022 and 2021. It's been a while since the NHLPA could hold this showcase in person. It had been held in Toronto for years and years and years. Back in 2019, it moved to Washington, which is where it will be held again this year. But then, of course, in-person meetings for the pandemic and so forth have kind of disrupted all of that. So you'll have the 2021 and 2022 top prospects invited to this year's NHLPA Rookie Showcase. And this is it's an event for Upper Deck to get all of their multimedia for trading cards, for giveaways, and so on and so forth. So Juraj Slafkovsky is going to be there. He'll be wearing the CH, and the players go through a number of events on ice, off ice, lots of different photo opportunities. This is when they'll have their photos taken for their official NHL rookie trading cards. They'll probably have some fun, play some games as well. In fact, if you look right here, a tweet from 2019's Rookie Showcase from the NHLPA showed some of the fun kind of dark ice photos that they took that year. But look who was featured in this quadrant of players. We had Ryan Poehling was there. And then, of course, we have Quinn Hughes and his brother, Jack Hughes. And then Kirby Dach wearing a different jersey. Of course, he and Ryan Poehling both will be in different sweaters come this fall. Thought that was interesting, 2019 compared to now. So congratulations to Juraj Slafkovsky. That's going to be a fun event for him to attend, and that will be when he gets to get those photos taken for those rookie cards that I bet a lot of you are going to be on the hunt for as soon as they're made available by Upper Deck. The big news last week was Calgary and Brad Treliving continuing to make moves. I mean, what an up and down summer it has been for Calgary and Flames fans and that franchise. Losing Johnny Gaudreau, then finding out that Matthew Tkachuk did not want to re-sign, so trading him away as well, losing two big pieces of their roster, and then Brad Treliving going to work and doing what a good GM does, and bringing in some pretty good names. Jonathan Huberdeau coming in, and now Nazem Kadri. He lands the Kadri contract. Many thought that Kadri would be heading off to Lou Lamoriello's New York Islanders, but signing a lengthy deal with the Calgary Flames. But to do that, Brad Treliving needed to dump salary. And so Kent Hughes was right in there, said, I'll help you out with that if it's beneficial to us. And so Shawn Monaghan traded to the Montreal Canadiens. Shawn Monaghan, coming off of a second hip surgery. It's the second. He's had both hips operated on in the past 2 years, which that is not an easy procedure to recover from. And Monahan, in his media availability, said, he feels good. He feels close. He doesn't want to set an actual return date because he knows from experience that setbacks do happen. So he doesn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. He wants to do the opposite. He wants to underpromise and overdeliver. So he's hoping, and he feels that he'll be ready for training camp, but couldn't say that for sure. And so this is an interesting pickup. It gives Kent Hughes a lot of option down the middle, but down the middle in the center depth, things are starting to really take shape. Kent Hughes has a lot of options to work with. He's got the options of moving some guys who currently are playing center to the wing if needed. And we'll just have to wait to see what that final roster actually shapes up to look like. Shawn Monaghan, excited to come to Montreal, and Kent Hughes, obviously happy to take on the contract, and looking forward to what Shawn Monaghan can bring.
All I've heard is nothing but good things. It's been really positive there. And I mean, guys want to be there. I mean, it's a historic franchise. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm really excited to get there and get going. I got a lot to prove. And I think the biggest thing is I want to prove it to myself. I mean, I know I'm a great player, and I mean, it's been a rocky road. So, I mean, just like I said, I've been working really hard this summer, and on the ice, I feel like myself again, and I'm enjoying the game. when you're injured with those kind of injuries that I've had, it takes a toll on you mentally, and to feel good again and love being on the ice and getting out there and having fun, pushing yourself. It's a good feeling.
We think a healthy Shawn Monaghan, if he can return to the form that he had, and we're hopeful that he can, is obviously a very good hockey player one way or the other. I think we have a strong group of center icemen, and I'm a big believer that a successful hockey team needs to have a presence through the middle of the ice. It's very important to the team. I think we've got good group of wingers as well, but we're excited that, it's a young group of center icemen that we have.
The Canadiens announced this week that Shawn Monahan will wear number 91 for the Montreal Canadiens. This is a young man who, if he gets healthy and if a change of scenery is what he needed to refresh himself, he could be very effective for the Montreal Canadiens, and it will be it's just another one of those fun and fascinating pieces of the puzzle that will be thrilling to watch unfold as the season gets started. Along with that came a first-round draft pick. Oh, and by the way, what did Montreal send back to Calgary? Nothing. All of this traded a first-round draft pick and Shawn Monahan for that oh-so-popular phrase, future considerations, which is essentially for free. So first-rounder coming back as well. Kent Hughes mentioned that this was a vital piece of the puzzle. This was something, there had to be, something really big to sweeten the pot for Montreal to take on Shawn Monahan's salary. It's as convoluted as I think anyone has seen in recent history in an NHL trade. It's so confusing. It's so convoluted. And we actually heard from plenty of you saying, oh boy, like that's a lot to unpack. It's really challenging to wrap your head around it. Well, I have to say a tip of the hat to the fine folks over at Cap Friendly. They also put out a tweet which kind of helped simplify the scenario around the conditions a little bit more. I'll take you step by step through this, and sometimes even just hearing it out loud sometimes makes a bit more sense of things. So, if Calgary's 2024 first round pick after lottery results are in ends up being between picks 20 and 32, then Montreal has the option to take their 2024 pick instead of Calgary's 2025 or 2026 pick. What pick will that be? Well, Calgary could receive Florida's 2025 first round pick because of that trade from Matt Tkachuk. In the event that Calgary receives Florida's 2025 first round pick, there's two kind of stipulations here. If both Calgary and Florida's picks are not in the top 10, then Montreal will receive the better of the Calgary or the Florida 2025 first round pick. Now, if Calgary's pick is in the top 10 and Florida's pick is not in the top 10, then Montreal will receive Florida's pick, which is outside of the top 10. So that's where you get kind of your typical condition of top 10 protection. Now, the second scenario is Calgary doesn't end up getting Florida's first round pick because of the conditions that Florida and Calgary agreed to in that Tkachuk trade. If Calgary doesn't get Florida's first round picks, so here's what happens. Calgary doesn't get Florida's first round pick, and Calgary's pick isn't in the top 10. So Calgary not getting Florida's first rounder, and Calgary is picking at 11 to 32. Then Montreal gets the Calgary pick, which will be between 11 and 32. And if Florida's pick is not in the top 10 as well, and is a better pick than Calgary's, and was transferred to another team due to prior conditions, then Montreal will also receive Calgary's 2024 fourth round pick. Do you follow that? Now, what if it's the opposite? What if Calgary doesn't receive Florida's first round pick, however, their pick does land in the top 10? If Calgary is picking first overall, then what Montreal will get is Calgary's 2025 third rounder and the better of Calgary or Florida's 2026 first rounder. If Calgary doesn't get the first overall selection and they're picking 2 to 10, then Montreal gets that first round pick in 2025. Clear as mud, right? Clear as mud. So, credit where credit is due to the GMs and their teams for hammering out these kinds of details. We all wondered why, the news came out that the trade was happening, and then it took hours before it was made official. And a lot of people were saying, including us, thought, okay, well, maybe there's a third team on this deal, because in order for Kent Hughes to take Shawn Monahan's contract, he's already over cap. So maybe there's a third team in this deal where there's going to be another trade that happens in order for Kent Hughes to clear some cap space. And things of that nature. It turns out the reason that this took so long was hammering out these conditions. Brad Treliving even said, complimented Kent Hughes in his press conference and said, Kent did a great job. He spent a lot of years as an agent, player agent. He did a great job here. He pushed back hard when he needed to. It was some tough negotiations at times, but at the end, we walk away with a deal that makes both parties happy, even if it does leave the rest of us spending a few hours or days deciphering exactly what it all means. So, pretty exciting stuff. Quite a trade for Kent Hughes to pull off. And so who knows? Will he use this first rounder wherever it ends up? It's going to depend on what the team needs, depending on the year that it's available. But if a really sweet deal comes along for a trade and somebody wants a first rounder thrown in, this could be used to sweeten the pot a little bit. So, great job by Kent Hughes. I give him all the credit. A very good trade. And then completely unprompted, he actually wasn't even asked about this, but he basically laid out why this was possible for him to do. And it's because he gave us the news that Carey Price is not going to be ready to start the season and will be placed on LTIR. And so that obviously then gives Kent Hughes the room in the cap space to take on a contract like Shawn Monaghan's. Devastatingly unfortunate news for Carey Price. I can't imagine what this past year has been like for him, the ups and downs personally as well as physically. Everyone ran away very quickly with Carey Price will never play another game again, or is likely to never play another game again. And everyone's starting to say their goodbyes and thank yous to Carey Price for a wonderful career. And, for me, I was like, stop the bus. Kent Hughes didn't say Carey Price is done. Kent Hughes, actually, let's hear from Kent. Let's hear exactly what Kent Hughes said so that we can kind of decipher it a little bit.
At this point in time, the news in terms of Carey's knee is pretty discouraging in the sense that there hasn't been any improvement, through the rehab process all last season. It obviously continued to create problems for him. This summer, he went through the process of a shot to the knee, seeing if that would help. It did not. And at this point, we don't expect Carey to be available for the start of the season. Quite frankly, I don't know that there's a path for Carey to return this season through the rehab process.
So here's the key word in what Kent Hughes just said: rehab. And I found it, I got very angry on the day that this happened. When I saw, it's a sticking point for me and for all of us here at Rocket Sports, when members of the media do not actually provide an actual quote in a press conference. When they either paraphrase, but still put that paraphrase in quotation marks, which is an absolute no-no, or they just pick and choose parts of a sentence or a quote, but not the full sentence or quote, and then that becomes kind of clickbaity. That happened a lot on the day that this press conference happened, because it would take me more than one hand to count the members of the media who simply stopped at Kent Hughes said that Carey Price may not be available for the whole season. That it was very likely and very probable that there was no path back for Carey Price this season. There were some words after that, right? They were kind of important words. That it was also very likely that there was not a path for Carey Price to return this season through rehab. That is such an important part of the sentence. It completely changes the definition of the sentence. Everyone automatically assumes that means that the media that they trust to tell them things accurately is telling them Carey Price is done. Carey Price isn't going to play, which automatically led people to say Carey Price is retiring. So, before we all just jump off the cliff together, is the news good for Carey Price? No. It's not. It's disappointing. It's got to be very difficult for him to accept that the rehab process on his knee and the shots and injections that he got earlier in the summer are just not going to suffice to get his knee better. With that being said, there are options on the table. Yes, it's possible that Carey Price is done playing. I'm not saying that that's not a possibility. It is one possibility. And it will be sad, and we will lament it, and we will give all of the credit to Carey Price if and when that time comes. We are not here to jump to conclusions, however, because Kent Hughes himself said, here's what's going to happen. Carey Price is going to report to camp. Carey Price is going to go through his team mandated physical, like he always does. And at that point, he will sit and meet with doctors and management, and Kent Hughes and Carey Price and a doctor or two will likely at that point hold another press conference to talk about what decisions have been made regarding Carey Price's knee. So saying that Carey Price likely doesn't have a path back to play this season through rehab also does mean that there is perhaps the possibility that he could have another surgery. Have another surgery, fix what's going on, rehab that surgery. Whether he'd be available to play by the end of the season or not, it would depend on recovery time and setbacks and so on and so forth. But a second surgery is an option here. And nowhere has Carey Price said that he won't have another surgery. In fact, he has indicated that, he wants to do whatever he can to get his knee healthy. And so really, the bottom line here is we all just need to be patient. Stop putting words into Carey Price's mouth. Stop putting words into Kent Hughes' mouth. Report what was said accurately, and then we just sit and wait. And then we'll find out what that's going to be. And at that time, we can then talk about the facts instead of this wild speculation. So no, it's not good news for Carey Price. And I'm very sad for Carey Price. I'm sure this has been just a tumultuous, emotional roller coaster for him. We know that he's a very competitive person, and we know that he just wants to play hockey. And we just wish him nothing but the best in health, and that whatever decision he makes, that he feels good that it's the right one for him. And we'll wait to see what happens. So, of course, that now means that Jake Allen, we've talked about a few times this summer, could Jake Allen be on the block? Calls have been made inquiring about Jake Allen's availability. Obviously, that's not happening now. Jake Allen will likely not go anywhere, and Sam Montembeault will be the backup. Rick Stevens and myself actually discussed what all of that means for Caden Primo in depth in the most recent episode of the Press Zone podcast this past Tuesday. I invite you to check that out because obviously this has implications for the Habs' young goaltending prospect as well in his year ahead. So I invite you to check that out. Boy, what a whirlwind week of news for the Montreal Canadiens. Let's have a related question from the All Habs Mailbag right now. Dino wrote in with a great question for the mailbag, and he says, when a player on LTIR retires, what are the salary implications? And Dino, this is a great question because we've seen, whether it's on the All Habs Facebook page, on Twitter, on comments, on our podcast and website, we've seen a lot of wild theories getting thrown around about this. And so it's a great question. And I will... I'm all about credit where credit is due. I will stick tap our editor-in-chief and founder, Rick Stevens, for this because this was something that he made sure to spell out this week as well. All of the people who say Carey Price is about to retire, no, Carey Price isn't going to be retired. Even if Carey Price is never going to play another game of professional hockey, Carey Price isn't retiring anytime soon. And so what do I mean by that? Well, has Shea Weber retired? Nope, he hasn't, because he's still under contract. That contract is just on LTIR, which means it doesn't count towards this team's salary cap. It's being paid through other means, but Shea Weber is still collecting a very nice paycheck because of that contract. If Shea Weber were to announce his retirement, those payments would stop. So Carey Price isn't going to retire. Even if the decision comes down that Carey Price is not going to have another surgery or it's just surgery just wouldn't fix the problem and he's going to essentially have to hang up the skates, there will not be a retirement announcement for Carey Price anytime soon. His contract will just continue to sit on LTIR. It has no implications to the team's salary cap at that point as far as being paid out from the team's cap base. It's paid in other ways through the organization, through a different fund. And Carey Price will collect his paycheck, which he has earned. He certainly has earned it, and that's an option. So no, no one's going to retire when they go on LTIR until that contract has been fulfilled. Will we see Kent Hughes trade away that contract like he did with Shea Weber? It's possible. If that ends up being the case, that Carey Price will permanently be on LTIR for the rest of the contract, it's possible that we could eventually see Kent Hughes trade away that contract like he did with Shea Weber. But we're still a ways away from that. But Dino, that was a good question because LTIR and retirement are two words that likely aren't going to go together. So again, it's all about the semantics, right? It's all about being accurate. Dino, we appreciate your question, and it gave us a great opportunity to clear that up for fans as well. So the best way you make sure that you don't miss any of it is to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. If you did miss last week's show, you can check it out right here, and I look forward to seeing you again next Thursday on Habs Hockey Report.